I've got you under my skin. I've got you deep in the heart of me, so deep in my heart that you're really a part of me.
Hello, beautiful people. This is going to be my second introduction. And this is going to be the words, language lessons of the heart, the words. I've already said that language lessons of the heart has 4 processes. The first process is empowerment. The second process is denial and judgment release. The third process is emotional release. And the fourth process is talking to the parts of the self, which I'm not going to go into today because, frankly, mostly nobody's ready. I'm going to teach that one through Skype or over the phone or something, because until enough of a person's becomes involved in the process, then you're not going to be authentic when you're talking to yourself. You're just being lying to yourself. So that's that one. So the process of healing our emotional body is actually pretty simple. Every time we get shouted at or things happen to us and we have pain, then that happened in a very specific way. You got wounded in an automatic, subconscious, nonverbal, and non-visual way. In other words, pop, 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 pop. You know, this thing happened. Somebody shouted at you, somebody hit you, and they did this over and over and over again in different ways, scolding you, whatever. And then you receive this, the denials and the judgments, and you became, and that, you know, is impressed on you, becomes an understanding. So it's this thing that's holding over you. I'm this way, I'm that way. So that's how it is. But because it's automatic and subconscious, you don't even notice that you formed a bad self-image or a bad judgment or something that's really debilitating, or your understanding of yourself is, you know, you have to be shy or whatever the problem is, or angry all the time. So to reverse that process is also natural. We take what was automatic and we turn it into a method. So a process is a method. And we take what was subconscious and you make it conscious. This is where denial release becomes so important, because you want to make the subconscious conscious, because once it's conscious you can deal with it. Then you want to take what was nonverbal. In other words, when it went in, it was somebody on your outside. But once it's inside of you, that same judgment is on the inside, and that's nonverbal. You don't think of your judgments all the time. They're not words in your ear, except for when you get triggered. And to turn what was invisible and make it visual. You know, what was non-visual, make it visual. So in other words, if it was your father or something scolding at you saying you're never going to amount to anything, then you actually have a little image of in your head of your father over you saying you're never going to amount to anything, and that's then you're never going to be amount to anything turns into I am never going to amount to anything. So his judgment denied you, and then your judgment continually denies yourself. So you have a little image of your father inside of you forever, telling you you're not going to ever amount to much, or whatever the judgment. And there's hundreds and hundreds of judgments. Judgments come in clusters. So one judgment of you're never going to amount to much would be in your job, in your relationships, in your, you know, in your love life, or with luck, or you're making your dreams come true. You see, this is all one judgment that has all these grapes that are all connected together. So the first process is an empowerment. It's something you say over and over again. And it goes like this: I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. And this is something that you're saying to yourself. And you say it from your head to your heart, from your head to your will, from your head to your body. And you say it in all the different circumstances of your life. There's three empowerments. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. That's the first one, the main one. But also, when you're going to get tired of that one, the other one is I want to live and I want to be fulfilled. Now this is speaking not from your mind, it is for your mind and it is for yourself, but it's also speaking from your heart wants to live, your emotional body, your inner child wants to live and be fulfilled. So the empowerment process is very much a scaffolding. Your scaffolding is you go around the house so you can build higher walls, or you can complete the structure, or you can work on or paint it or whatever. A scaffolding. So you say the empowerment process, and you can go back into every year of your life. You can say it in different, circumstances that you've been in, different emotional problems that you've had, or difficulties or disappointments. So you put your empowerment into those different places in your life. So this is very much, the scaffolding is for an inner discovery and for inner awakening of your intuition, so you can connect your mind to what happened to the past, connect your conscious mind to circumstances like love life or being abused or whatever it is. And along with that empowerment process, I have what's called the healing archetypes and role-playing personalities. Now what these are is, language lessons of the heart is a process that is very much like the hero's journey, right? So sometimes the hero has to be a detective, a super sleuth, find out what happened, and like if this happens, then that happened. And if you can't get what you want over here, it's because there's a judgment over there. So you but when you're doing the empowerment, I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. You do it as a detective, or you can do it as a hero, or you can do it as a rescuer. You see these different archetypes, and they come in really handy later when you're doing emotional release and when you're doing judgment now release. You need that, like the best parent. You're actually regrowing yourself year to year to year and giving yourself the ideal love and the ideal environment. And so while you're doing the empowerment process, you're doing it as the best parent, or you're doing it as the defender of the inner child, or as the healer, the doctor, the nurse, the shaman, the intended. You see, you take on these personalities so that your intent to heal isn't this one person who's kind of damaged and beaten up in the world and trying to put on a brave face. No, you have these other personalities, this role-playing archetypes that you can access to, and there's a lot of power. So you multiply the power of your empowerment process. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal. You can say it as the king, or as the president, or the chairman, or the police detective, or the avenging superhero. Yeah. So I have a whole video on the empowerment process, and it's kind of complex and dense, because you have to take your conscious mind and travel back into the past, travel into your wounds, travel into the words that are said to you, and imagine what was happening and how what happened there affects you now. It's actually pretty easy when you do it. It's harder to think about it. Okay, that's the words of the empowerment process. And then denial. There's several different things about denial. If you don't have it in your mind, like I don't deserve happiness, or I can't get happiness. Now you live in your life, you don't think I can't get happiness. I don't. But the result is everything that you have. That every time you want to be happy, something bad happens. and some traumatic thing happens, or you mess it up, or you sabotage it. So this denied judgment of I don't deserve happiness wrecks your life. So it's very, very, very important to pursue denials. And you pursue denials in a couple of different ways. One is by the pain that you're in, and the other one is by what dreams and visions you can't have, what goals you can't attain, what wishes and wants that were foiled and denied you. You're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you're not rich enough. You see, these are denials. You don't think about these things. So denial is a big deal. And denial and denial and judgment release are exactly the same. But denial is what's in your pocket you can't get a hold of, right? Like I have, my keys are in denial. But now that I have my keys, I can actually do something with them. I can put them in a different place. I can have new ones made. There's a lot of things you can do once it's not in denial. But if it's in denial, anything that's operating against you, putting pressure on you, an operating system in your life, and you don't know about it, it has more power over you than something that you are aware of. So a sample of the denial and judgment of let's say I'm not good enough. It looks like this. First you feel it, right? You say I'm not good enough, and you feel it, and you found out, well, I never really thought of myself as not being good enough, but now I see that's actually something that's going on. And so the first thing you say is, after you feel it, it's clear, the first thing you say is, I recognize my denial that I'm not good enough. Now that I'm not good enough is a judgment, but you actually work on the denial of it, right? You want to know that's there. So, I recognize my denial that I'm not good enough. I offer loving acceptance to this denial. And I forgive myself for believing or not knowing this denial for so long. Next, because I no longer need or want this denial in my life, I now offer it loving release. Big exhale. And the exhale is a biofeedback. If it is the right denial, you'll feel it. You feel a release in your breath. And then the last thing you say is, I'd now like to, and also the visual part of it. When you release and exhale, imagine a little stick figure, or imagine a little person, or imagine a little smoke being, or a little being, or the actual person just leaving and going out to another realm, out a door. That's the visual part. Yeah, it's even if you can't quite visually, just try to visualize it. Of that denial going out. And then last, I would now like to replace this denial with new understandings. And to make it visual, imagine these new understandings coming in through a door as, fresh, strong helpers who are going to help you find your denial. And you always list about 5 or 6, 10, you can go off on it if you want, but at least 6 reasons why you don't want denial in your life. So I want to know what I want, I want to know. I don't need things hidden in my life. Denial is not loving. I cannot love what is in denial. My love can't go there. My light must be able to shine into what is denied. I no longer want my greatness denied. No longer want my power denied. I no longer want my compassion denied. You see, it just keeps on going. What is denied is part of me. Denial blocks my love. You see, you're building up this case that you really you don't want denial in your life anymore because of so much that's lost to denial. And you can do that as much as you want, but in the beginning, you're going to do a denial release, and in this case, it's on the judgment of I'm not good enough. And then, number two, you do the judgment release on the exact same thing. So the first one is for denial. I don't want denial anymore. I want to find my denials. Denials are like hurting me. And I need to know. I need to know my denials. That's the denial. But the judgment is the actual words. It's the actual event of somebody yelling at you, poking you or teasing you or hurting you and making you feel ashamed and less. So, first one was the denial release, and this one is the judgment release on the same judgment, the sample judgment of I'm not good enough. First, feel the discomfort again of what that judgment is. And again you say, I recognize my judgment that I'm not good enough. Because if you don't recognize it, right, you're out of water. You can't do nothing. You can't. And first you have to recognize it. So, giving really recognize it. And then the second is I offer loving acceptance to this judgment. And acceptance, nothing moves without acceptance. No matter how bad the judgment is, or how bad the person was, or how bad the abuse might have been, you have to give the judgment and the whole scenario loving acceptance. It happened and it's there, and then it can change. If you resist it, say no, it's not, that didn't happen, and it's not important, and all these kind of resistance, no. So first, I recognize my judgment that I'm not good enough. Then I offer loving acceptance for believing in this judgment for so long. And sometimes it can be from the crib. Next, because I no longer need or want this judgment in my life, I offer loving release. Wow. And let it go. But you also see the little person going out into another realm, into another corridor, or out the door. You see that representation, the image, the archetype leaving. That's what the big exhale is all about, and the visualization. And last, I would now like to replace this judgment with the new understandings that, and each understanding you have is another little, is an ally, a friend, a helper, or someone who opens the doors, someone who is the opposite of what the judgment is. So each one of those things is also an archetype, but they're like your allies, your little army. So you're building an army here of empowerment. So, and you do, like I said, at least 6 for every judgment that you find. And if you do hundreds of judgments, then you're going to have a pretty big army. With, when you do, there'll be 600, beneficial, nurturing, loving things. So from I'm not good enough, it's always reversed around. I am good enough. That's a replacement. I am good enough. And another one is I'm better than good enough. I'm excellent at many things. I've always had excellent qualities. And just keep going. I'm a good dresser. I'm a good cleaner. I'm a good cook, and I'm a good lover. You see, just keep replacing your replacements of the opposite of what that I'm not good enough means. If the overtone is I'm not a good enough student, then I am a good enough student. I'm very good at what I do, and I'm in depth, and I have a deeper feeling and understanding than other people. See, there's a replacements. Okay, so that's the empowerment process, the denial and judgment process, and the emotional release process. Emotional releases, they're all actually tied together. Because when you're denied, it's painful. No, you can't. Stop doing that. You're not good enough. Clean up your room. You're a mess. You're never going to make anything out of that. These are denial. Denial is painful because you can't express the fullness of who you are, and you become little and small and compartmentalized and separated. Same thing with judgments. Judgments hold you back. They're a punishment I judge you guilty. So you're guilty of, you know, not being clean enough or smart enough or tidy enough or being too loud or too boisterous or too adventurous or too, you know, on and on and on. Slap in the face on every single thing you try to do. It is the judgment against yourself, and people are terrorized by judgments. They're terrorized that they're going to be judged. What will people say? I can't speak in public because what will people say? See? What a kick in the butt that is. But there's an emotional side to it. So to find your judgments and denials, you can go through the emotional side. And a lot of people are loaded up their eyeballs with emotional pain. So I have exercise. I have a whole, I'm going to do a whole bunch of little videos on the different ways that you can move emotions. And you move emotions, and that's great. You move emotions, and things vibrate back to life, and maybe you get angry, or maybe you get sad, or maybe you feel grief, or maybe you feel depressed, and just, you know, and then the new. That part of you that has been denied for so long and judged for so long takes root and becomes a young adult and has power and can invigorate you. Yeah, that's what emotional release does for you. But it also, what holds an emotion in place is the judgment. You got hurt and a conclusion was made. You deserve to suffer, or you deserve pain, or life is hard. That was the word. Life is hard. Toughen up. You know, so then your heart becomes tough and hard-hearted person. So the emotions are held in place by judgment and denial. Move the emotions and you find the judgment and denial. Yeah? And also, if you find the judgment and denial, they always have an emotional component to it, and you need both these. Bop, 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 bop. And it's very, very loving, because you're allowing a child to grow up. You're allowing your powers to grow up, your heart to grow up, your intuition to grow up, your compassion to grow up. This is very powerful. This is what you want. So, like I said, there's a lot of different ways of doing emotional release work. You can lay down, you can do breath work, you can do chanting, and you can do just a lot of different ways of doing it. And it is really, really powerful. And you can actually go back to other lifetimes through doing emotional release work and judgment and denial work. You can connect to other realms, to higher realms, to the earth, to the nature. Very, very connected work. So one of the doorways to being connected to everything is through pain. First through pain, then through compassion. When you feel compassion for yourself, then you'll feel compassion for every other human being and every animal and living thing on this planet. It is a powerful, wonderful thing. And then from that compassion is love. Then you can feel love for everything, you see? This is what gets denied by not doing emotional release work. This is what the shamans try to teach. This is what happens when you go through ayahuasca ceremony, is these layers are broken. And you have to let that pain be there and then be regrown. It's also very much like a rebirth kind of a process. So those are the empowerment process, judgment denial process, the emotional release process. I'm going to have videos on that, and the talking to the parts of self is another gateway to another realm, to the other realms. So while you're talking to your deepest wounds, you know, that connects you to other realms of with compassion. So I'm going to talk about that in private, one-on-one for each person. And I think that's going to be it for this little thing. I realized that I didn't really have this whole process in a nutshell so that you could grasp the process. The empowerment process, judgment denial process, emotional release process, and talking to the parts of the self process. And do not, under any circumstances, discount the polarity flip-flops. That's very, very, if you can do that one right, you will never be stuck in a polarity again. So enjoy and good luck with your process.